Hey everyone, it's Ryder. Been a while since I've done one of these. Today we're going to talk about riding with Ryder. It has to do with the ORV. That would be the other motor vehicle. Plus asking the questions. What is a street license vehicle? What is registered? All this is in an effort to comply with the laws of Michigan and utilize its highways with a DNR ID. That part's for me. You wouldn't have to do it this way, but you still might want to try the things I'm trying if they work out. I'm not quite all the way done with the process, if we can call it that. Let's put some quote marks up, the process. We're just going to follow the law and do what it says and see where we end up. And my email address, Rob Ryder's email address, is courtofrecord@aol.com. That's COURTOFRECORD@AOL.com. And my phone number, 616-712-6179. Yeah, I give it out. And, please don't abuse it. But if you need to talk to me, that is my phone number. And it's Thursday, August 18th, 2016. And always, if you can, I ask you that you please donate to help keep the lights on. Please, 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 please. My daughter and brother-in-law just moved out, or my daughter and son-in-law, excuse me. They're getting ready to buy a house, and well, now I got to pick up a few more of the bills than I used to, and I can really use the help. If you can send it by PayPal, that would be wonderful. That's ashleyrytlewski@gmail.com is the PayPal account name. That's ASHLEY. RYTLEWSKI. I'll say that again. ASHLEYRYTLEWSKI @gmail.com. Just write it down for now. Watch the video, and if you get something out of it, well, if you got a PayPal account, send me something. If not, United States Postal Service works. To my, not quite my true name. I don't have my middle name in there, but Robert Rytlewski at 10955 14 Mile Road, Northeast, Oakfield, Michigan, 49341. Actually, they would like you to make that Rockford, Michigan, right? That's what they consider the mailing address, but I don't live in Rockford. Rockford's 11, 12 miles away. I live in Oakfield. Oakfield, Michigan, 49341. It'll still get here. They don't even use this part. They don't use the Oakfield or Michigan to deliver your mail. They use the 10955 14 Mile Road, Northeast, and the zip code, because there only be one 10955 14 Mile Road Northeast within that zip code. They really don't need the city or the state. So the section below I'm going to look at now, it came from, basically, it came from this section. It's just a little bit hard to read, but this is the Michigan Department of Natural Resources. And what it says is, let's just get into it, right? ORV licenses. Well, first of all, what is an ORV? That would be an off-road vehicle. Wonder what that could mean. Well, we'll get to that. In Michigan, individuals riding in any place other than private property, that would be trails, frozen surfaces of public water, and public roads, must, I say again, must purchase an annual ORV license. In addition, riders using state-designated trails must purchase an annual ORV trail permit. Well, that says to me, if you're a rider and you're going on the public road, you have to have an ORV license. And people say they don't want to be a driver, right? They're not involved in commerce. Well, if you're not a driver, what are you? You could be a rider. And then you would have to have an ORV license to use the public roads. Imagine that. The money goes to, for whatever it goes for. More mileage with numerous new ORV trail developments, so they take your money and they develop these trails to use for the real ORV drivers. Myself, I'm just going to use my vehicle and say it's an ORV because it will meet the definition. Now, the ORV license requirement, well, that'd be $26.25. That's how much your license costs, right? So the license for an off-road vehicle is $26.25. Is required on all eligible county roads frozen surface of public waters, state forest roads in the Upper Peninsula, and eligible national forest roads. A license is not required to operate on private lands. ORV licenses are available at the customer service centers, certain customer service centers, and you can do it online, and you can do it all sorts of ways. So now, because I had mentioned doing it with trying to do this with what's called a DNR ID, let's just go take a quick look. So on this page that we're reading from, here's that online ad right here. So you don't have to go, this license isn't through the Secretary of State or the Department of Transportation or whatever you would call it. It's through the Department of Natural Resources. And it's for your off-road vehicle. And so, well, if we can make our automobile fit the definition of an off-road vehicle, well, then you can call it an off-road vehicle. And so you could do this online, and the first thing they wanted was a Michigan driver's license or state ID. It's like, I don't have that. Then it said use a Michigan DNR sports card or DNR ID. DNR ID. Obtain a free DNR ID. This ID cannot be used to obtain hunting and fishing items. Well, I didn't want it for that. I wanted it for a off-road vehicle license. And so this is the first thing I did, right? So I'm not going to go through it all again, but you would click this and then go in and fill these things out. Your birth date. I reside in a settled permanent home or domicile. Yeah, did all that. And this is what it came up with. When you get all done, right here online, with just a few clicks away, you get a 2-page PDF sent to you. This is your receipt. Cannot be used as a license, but it is proof of purchase. Okay. This is what your license looks like. Or not your, this is your ID. Excuse me, your ID. What happened to you? Okay. So, when you actually print this out, it's about the size of, well, guess what? About the size of a driver's license when you fold it in half, because it's kind of long. It splits right here. But what you can see on this is it gives a number, right? This is my DNR ID number, 218-900-016-220-0017. 9558, that was my birth date. Robert Allen Britluski, that would be me, and resident address, 10955 14 Mile Road Northeast, Oakfield Township, MI 49341. And notice there's a space right here. So if you were to go and look at the postal manual to do a proper mailing address, it would talk about having the name of the individual as part of the mailing address, the street. This is the physical address. Wouldn't necessarily be here, but what's in this line right here would be here in the blank spot. And that would be like the P.O. box or something like that. It says normally you don't have both the physical address and the mailing address together. And this is the residence address. It's not the mailing address. So they left the postal part out. And nobody wants to tell you exactly what that is, but I believe it's, your P.O. box. You're on a rural route, and they don't want to tell you you are, so they don't want to say it's rural route 3, box 16, but it would be, and that would go on something right there. It's just my thought. I can't prove it because I don't have it. Oakfield Township, 49341, height and weight. And cannot be used to obtain a hunting and fishing license. But by gosh, you can use it to get a, so let's go back now, to get an off-road vehicle license. And we're just not quite there yet. So that was going to this online and just doing it online, right? Didn't have to leave my desk. I printed out a DNR ID 5 minutes after I started it. I could have used it to go back online and get the license, but it was going to take 6 to 10 days to have it mailed to me, and plus I don't have a bank account. That's the other problem. And it wouldn't take PayPal. So I said, well, okay, I'm going to print it out, and I'll just go down to one of these DNR licensing agents because I have a sports shop that's just down the road from me. And I walked in with that piece of paper, with this thing right here. And told them I would like to get an off-road vehicle license. And they said, well, do you have a driver's license? I said, yeah, well, I could have, but, you know, they say I can use this. I could have used it online. I just want to test the system, see if I can. Good enough for him. He took it. He put in that number, 218-900-016-220-0017. Said, yeah, it'll take it. And he printed me out a license, which looks like this. So you can't see it, but it's perforated right here, right? So just this top half is going to go on your vehicle. I don't know what you do with the bottom half. I guess just keep it. And that's the off-road vehicle license. I can license my vehicle as soon as I put that on there. It's licensed as an off-road vehicle, as long as the vehicle itself meets the criteria to be an off-road vehicle. And it isn't tied by a VIN number. It's not. The only thing this is tied to is this frickin' my driver's license. Well, my DNR ID, which has my residence address. Right? So they're not tied to the vehicle, and normally everything is tied to the vehicle when you do it the other way around. We'll get into that in just a second, but let's go through here a little bit more. ORV certificate of title. It is unlawful for a seller to sell or transfer an ORV without transferring the title, or for the buyer to purchase or acquire an ORV without obtaining a title. Application for title must be made within 15 days of purchase or transfer. Michigan residents are required to obtain an ORV certificate of title for off-road vehicles and all-terrain vehicles through the Secretary of State. However, see this, registration is not required. So you got to go to the Secretary of State and get a certificate of title, but you don't have to register it. So it's no different really than going down to normally get a certificate of title for an automobile you just bought, except then you need to register it, and to register it you have to have proof of insurance. I don't need to register it. That means I don't need to have proof of insurance. As it turns out, off-road vehicles don't need motor vehicle insurance as defined in the Motor Vehicle Code. A Michigan title is not required on an ORV owned by non-residents used in Michigan. Okay. So, that was that, right? That all came off of this one page right here. But there's plenty more, because hey, they had a handbook of Michigan off-road vehicle laws, right? It's put out by the DNR, so whatever they say is good enough for me. And what do they say? I gotta go to page 24. Department of Natural Resources provides equal opportunities for employment and access to Michigan's natural resources. Both state and federal laws prohibit discrimination on the basis of race, color, national origin, religion, disability, age, sex, height, weight, or must be matrimonial status, marital status, cheapers, under the U.S. Civil Rights Act 1964 as amended. Okay, so they're going to enforce the Civil Rights Act of 1964. I'm going to have to go read that again. But, there's a lot of blah blah in here, but this is the part where we get into the laws. Why Michigan has ORV laws. Minimum age for ORV operation as a result of extensive review. The hearing, okay, talking about age. I'm not so interested in that. Unlawful to operate on roads open to regular vehicle traffic. So, recognizing that there are potential safety hazards in off-road vehicle riding, the Michigan legislature enhanced regulations that directly affect operation of ORVs by children under 16, safety equipment for operators and passengers, strict controls, use, possession of alcohol while on an ORV, unlawful operation on roads open to regular vehicle traffic. I didn't say you couldn't use it where regular vehicle traffic is. You just can't unlawfully operate it there. Responsibilities come with ownership and operation. Don't spare the burden of passing on responsible conservation. Blah, 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 blah. The Michigan conservation officers play an important role in ensuring ORV recreation opportunities are available for safe and responsible users. They accomplish this through aggressive enforcement and continued willingness to respond to public concerns. So, what was the first thing that it said here? Because this is the DNR who's enforcing this. It says in Michigan, individuals riding in any place, any place other than private property, that would be like a public road, must purchase an annual ORV license. Well, I'm not going to disagree. I'll go ahead and buy one. Let's go on. Owners of ORVs are required to obtain a certificate of title for the ORV through the Secretary of State. Note, a Michigan title not required for ORVs owned by non-residents and used in Michigan. License the ORV with the Department of Natural Resources if the ORV will be used anywhere other than private property. Well, that would mean if you're going to use it on a public road, to license the ORV with the Department of Natural Resources, and this is the license that you can get by getting this free ID from Natural Resources from their own site, which is right here. Amen. That's beautiful. Okay, so obtain a certificate of title. Well, all right. Let's look at a certificate of title, because here's the certificate of title I'm going to be using. Okay, State of Michigan, certificate of title. Well, it's got that, right? It's got the vehicle identification number, the year, the make, right? It's a Chevrolet four-door. It's Illumina. Well, yeah, I'm going to use it as an off-road vehicle. Title number, issue date, yada, yada, yada. Now, the interesting thing about this, right? So, where does it say it? The State of Michigan, Department of State, certifies that this certificate of title is issued in compliance with the laws of Michigan and constitutes prima facie proof of ownership. Further, on the date of title issuance, the described vehicle was subject to the securities listed above, which there were none. Right? This is the proof of ownership. So when to get a certificate of title, we need to think about this for a second and think of the Torrens registration system, which was originally developed for vehicles and then used actually for land in like 19 different states. They went to the Torrens system. And so in that system, you would give the court of chancery your title deed, the deed to the property. They would in turn issue certificates of title. An original certificate of title, which stayed in a drawer in the office of the Register of Deeds, and an owner certificate of title, which was a duplicate of the original that they gave to you. Well, that's what this is. This is the owner's certificate of title. Right? It's not the title. It shows that there is a title. And it shows that you're the owner, right? And the title is with the Secretary of State. So when they ask you for registration, this is what they're talking about. This proves that you registered the title with the Secretary of State, and the state says this is prima facie proof of ownership. And so I'm going to carry this in the car and use it. You know, if they ask me for registration, well, here you go. I registered it with the Secretary of State. And there's another thing. A $15 late fee is due for failure to apply for a title within 15 calendar days after date of assignment. So technically, I'm supposed to take this when I get done filling it out, go down to the Secretary of State and get another one issued in my name and pay $15 for a new certificate of title. I think that's, or it's $11 or something like that. But I may not do that. I may just fill the damn thing out, leave it the way it is, drive around. If I get stopped, well, it's going to cost me an extra $15, but I won't have to go deal with the Secretary of State's office. Not quite ready to do that yet. But this is a certificate of title. So is it a off-road vehicle certificate of title? I don't know. It doesn't say it isn't. It just says it's a certificate of title. So I'm going to say it is an off-road, because eventually we're going to get to the idea of what it is. So you don't put on here what the model is, right? So this could be a Chevrolet four-door Blazer off-road vehicle, big-ass tires on it. You know, whatever you do to it. So this is a certificate of title, and it's prima facie evidence of ownership. So if you have a certificate of title, you should carry that in your car. When they ask for the registration, show that to the cop and say, I'm the owner. This says so. Because I'm going to show you what they do normally is usually they want you to take that, and at the same time, see, that was a motor vehicle registration, and now this is the Michigan registration. Or that was a certificate of title, and this is a Michigan registration. Now you're going to register it in Michigan, uppercase Michigan, in uppercase County of Marquette. And they're going to tie the plate to the vehicle number. And the way I'm doing it, they're going to tie the plate to the resident's address. We're just not quite there yet. But see the difference. This is the registration that most people carry in their car, that when they ask for the registration they give them, and we're not doing it this way. We're not going to pay $88 for a license. We just paid $26. Right? And the plate is a separate issue from the license fee. The plate's $5 no matter how you get it, or $10, as you'll see. Right? So this plate is going to be tied to this vehicle number instead of this plate being tied to your residence, which it could have been. I hope that makes sense in just a minute. We're just getting through some of the, finer points. And really, that's all this is. I'm going to show you a whole bunch of definitions and where they come from and say, well, this is why I'm doing it. Let's see what happens. But, okay, that was the certificate of title. So I have a certificate of title. License the ORV with the Department of Natural Resources if the ORV will be used anywhere other than private property. Yes, I'm going to use it on public roads. Yes, I did that already. I've already got the license. Every ORV sold through a dealer must be accompanied by a certificate of origin. See, that is the title, the certificate of origin. The certificate of origin contains all the information needed for applying for a certificate of title. Again, the certificate of title isn't the title. It signifies that there is a title, that the Secretary of State has it because you registered it with her. That's the registration they're talking about. That's why you give them the certificate of title as registration. Well, here you go. I registered it with the Secretary of State. It's unlawful for seller to sell or transfer an ORV without transferring the title, or for the buyer to purchase or acquire an ORV without obtaining a title. And that's the thing about taking the certificate of title, which they sign over to you, and you take and you do your thing and go back to the Secretary of State, and now they'll put it in your name. And if you don't do that within 15 days, it's a $15 fine. But that's what it is. It's a fine. They didn't say there's any jail time. It's not a misdemeanor. It's a $15 fine. It's a civil infraction. If an ORV is purchased through a dealer, application for the title will be made by the dealer on behalf of the buyer. Well, when you buy a car, that's what they do. They take the certificate of origin and give it to the Secretary of State. And a lot of people bitch about that, and they want to get that piece of paper. And okay, you can try to do that, or you can just let them go ahead and do what they're going to do and just register the car as an off-road vehicle. The DNR issues licenses for all off-road vehicles. So who issues the license for the vehicle? The DNR. So it's not the license plate on the car. Right? The license is that little frickin' tab that you put on your license plate that you paid $88 for, that comes in the mail with this other form. And we can close that one. And we can close that one. All right. Normally they send you like this piece of paper or something similar to this, and it's got a little tab on it that you're supposed to take off, and that's what you go put on your plate. All right, you're paying $88 for that little tab, not for the plate, but for the tab. The plate number is not going to change. They just issue one plate and keep changing the tab. Now, KS 2625. In addition, ORV trail permit required to operate on state designated ORV trails, routes, or areas. The cost of the permit's an extra $10. So if you actually need to have an off-road vehicle to get on the trail, I mean, because you couldn't drive a car on them. These are the off-road vehicles trails are talking about, 2 tracks and so forth, sand dunes or whatever it is. Well, you have to pay another $10 to get that. You can't drive on those with an off-road vehicle license. You're just getting an off-road vehicle license because you've decided to call your vehicle an off-road vehicle instead of a passenger vehicle. Vehicles that are licensed under the Motor Vehicle Code as street vehicles require ORV license only when they are being used as an ORV. A street licensed ORV does not need an ORV license to use forest roads, but will need an ORV license and permit to use designated trails, blah, blah, blah. Okay. If you go to the Motor Vehicle Code and you put in street vehicles and search on those words, nowhere does it show up. There's no definition anywhere in all of the Michigan compiled laws for street vehicles or for street licensed. They don't show up. They don't use those terms. So, they're using them here, and they're saying as street vehicles, but there's no definition for a street vehicle in the Motor Vehicle Code. Now, street licensed, we could say, well, what is that? And I'm going to show you what that is. So, to be street licensed, you have to have registered your vehicle with the Secretary of State. Registering your vehicle with the Secretary of State is evidenced by the fact that they gave you a certificate of title. And then you went and you got a license from the Department of Natural Resources. Now, as far as a plate's concerned, well, we'll get that in a minute. An off-road vehicle license is not required for street licensed vehicles. When they are used, conventional two-wheel drive vehicle can operate, including frozen surface waters, designated ORV routes, so forth and so on. But they never define what a street licensed vehicle is. Licensing is required for ORVs used in areas open to public operation, regardless of whether your ORV is owned by a resident or non-resident of Michigan. Well, public operations would be on the roadway. And where do you display it? Well, you put it on the back of your vehicle. Well, that's simple enough to do. I had a few more in here, and then we'll be on to the next thing. Okay, prohibited ORV operation on other lands. Roads, streets, and highways maintained for year-round automobile travel are closed to ORV operation, including the shoulder and the right-of-way. That is the entire width of the boundary lines of public ways maintained for vehicle travel is closed to RVs. However, ORVs registered as motor vehicles by the Secretary of State may be operated on the roadway. So what is a motor vehicle? We're going to have to find it out. We're going to be looking at definitions, right? But as long as it's registered as a motor vehicle by the Secretary of State, you can operate it on the roadway. Let's go look at them definitions. Okay. on, baby. Open up that one and open this one at the same time. So these are right out of the Michigan Vehicle Code. First of all, collector plate. A collector plate means a plate that contains a reproduction of every characteristic of a specific registration plate except for the number and letter characters, which shall be determined by the Secretary of State, and this is sold as described in Section 811G. A collector plate is not a registration plate. Okay, but what is it? This is what they look like. Come on, baby. Work with me. So you can't go down to the Secretary of State's office and get these. You can only get these through the mail. Collector versions of each standard license plate listed below can be purchased for a one-time fee of $10. These plates are for display purposes only, not for vehicle registration. Well, we don't need to register our vehicle if it's off-road vehicle. I just want to have one to display so that when the cop rolls up behind me, he sees a plate. Complete this form, including your name and address, to purchase by mail or fax. Right? You can't go down there and buy it. You can't fill this out and take it down to the Secretary of State. You can only do it by mail or fax. Because I took it down to them. I said, hey, I'd like to get one of these plates. And they looked at me like, well, why would you want a plate that you can't, what are you going to use it on? You know, they're trying to figure out, what are you going to do? You know, so I'm going to put on my fishing shanty. Maybe. But when you do this thing, so it costs $10, you can pick how you want it, and you put your name, so you put your name the way you want it, Robert Allen Ritlewski, and then you put your address and your city and your state and your zip and your telephone number, and hey, now this plate isn't tied to the vehicle the way it was on this one. Right? This plate's tied to this vehicle. No, this plate's tied to this address. And that address is tied to that DNR ID that I got, which is technically tied to the license that I got, although it doesn't show it on there, but I had to use the ID to get the license. So the ID is tied to the license, and the ID is tied to the plate. And I'm not using it for registration because the law says I don't have to register an ORV. I'm just using it for display. And so that's what I'm waiting for now. I ordered it because I thought I could go down and get it, and you can't. You have to order them by mail, and so I'm waiting for it to show up. We'll see when that happens. When did I do it? I guess I did it Wednesday of last week, so it's just been over 7 days. Well, I think it says 7 to 10 days, but I'll have to find out. That's this collector plate. Driver means every person who drives actual physical control of vehicle. Okay, what's a freeway? Means divided arterial highway for through traffic with full control and access, with all crossovers separated and grade. That sounds like an expressway to me. That's fine, but hey, it's a highway. Highway or street means the entire width of the boundary lines of every way publicly maintained when any part thereof is open to the use of the public for purposes of vehicular traffic. Right? Highway or street. Laned roadway means a roadway which is divided into 2 or more clearly marked lanes. License. License means any driving privileges. License, which is that little ORV thing, pertaining to the licensing of persons to operate motor vehicles. So what are your driving privileges, right? You don't need to have a piece of paper for driving privileges. You just have them because you're a member of the state. That's what I'm saying. I don't need to have a driver's license or an operator's license or that thing they normally give you when you go to the Secretary of State's office. I don't need that. I'm licensing the vehicle. And it has me, or my driving privileges are mine just because I'm a citizen of the state. Limited access highway. Limited access highway means every highway, street, roadway with respect to which owners or occupants of abutting lands or other persons have no legal right of access to or from same except at such points only and in such manner as may be determined by public authority having jurisdiction over the highway, street, or roadway. We're talking about freaking driveways, right? A limited access highway is every highway that has a driveway coming to it. Local authority means every municipal and other local board or boards having authority. Now you may think that's a thing called the township, but in my next video I'm going to show you that in 1968 the Supreme Court in Avery versus Midland County, Texas determined that the county, which is a subdivision of the state, and so the county has authority to enforce a state law within the county, when it's subdivided, it can't be by territory, it has to be by population. And so here in Michigan we have townships which are by territory, and we used to have township supervisors that made up the group that we would now call the county commissioners. Well, they don't have that anymore. So now the county commissioner is actually the township supervisor, and they don't want to admit that. It doesn't change the fact that it is, and I got some interesting things going on with the county right now, but that's for later. Right now I got to get me a vehicle on the road. So, motor vehicle. Finally, let's define what a motor vehicle means. Motor vehicle means every vehicle that is self-propelled, comma. We could say period. Good enough for me. Every vehicle that is self-propelled is a motor vehicle. If you registered your motor vehicle with the Secretary of State, you'll have a certificate of title. That's all it took to be a motor vehicle. Every vehicle that is self-propelled. Now, it gives some caveats, like a forklift and a front-end loader and so forth and so on, but I'm not interested in that. I'm just saying, well, mine's a motor vehicle. It's self-propelled. Owner, defined, except for some caveat, a person who holds legal title of a vehicle. That's what the certificate of title is. That made you the owner. It's not the state. You are. You have the certificate of title. Show it to them. Quit handing that damn other thing, this stupid-ass piece of paper here, which shows that it's registered with Michigan. Right? This is a Michigan registration, not a vehicle registration. It's a Michigan registration. You registered your frickin' property with Michigan. Your license, basically, with Michigan. Whatever reason, you decided to use, get your plate and have them register it with them. Well, I can only believe that this uppercase Michigan, this is the commerce side of things, and so since we did this, you are operating in commerce. Now, I believe you could just leave this just the way it is, go spend $26 and get the off-road vehicle sticker, put it on your car, and that would stop a lot of the tickets we get from the bullshit that they do, because you'd say, well, I'm using it as an off-road vehicle right now. I'm not in commerce. But because we don't have that, and the law says you have to have one, well, then you just violated the law. Right? And I didn't say it. I mean, come on. The DNR said it, right? What did they say? In Michigan, individuals riding in any place other than a private property, that would be trails, frozen surfaces of public waters, and public roads, must purchase an annual ORV license. Don't argue. Just don't buy the other license, right? Buy this one. Okay. Private driveway or private road means privately owned and maintained road allowing access to more than one residence or place of business, which is normally open to the public, and upon which persons other than the owners located thereon may also travel. You understand that your property line goes to the midway of the roadway that's out in front of your house, right? You own that property. It's actually a private road. It's just you've given an easement for travel. But it's a private road. Registration means registration certificate, plate, adhesive tab, or other indicator of registration issued under this Act for display on a vehicle. Right, so, I'm going to say the registration certificate is the certificate of title. And so I don't need the plate or the adhesive tab or other indicator of registration issued under this Act for display on a motor vehicle, except to say, if that's the case, then it's the license that I got from the Department of Natural Resources to comply with this part of the law. Residence address defined means a place that is settled home or domicile which legally resides. Resident. Street or highway, I don't think we need to read all these, but okay. Off-Road Vehicle Act. County road means county primary road and county local roads as described in Section 5 of, this is the State Trunk Line Act or something like that. And basically all roads are part of the system, it looks like. Highway means a state trunk line highway or segment of a state trunk line highway. So what is an ORV? Finally, ORV, unless the context implies a different meaning, vehicle means a motor-driven off-road recreation vehicle, right? So it's recreation. It's not for hire. Capable of cross-country travel without benefit of road or trail, or immediately over land, snow, ice, marsh, swampland, other natural terrain. Well, I can drive my car across my road, my lawn just fine. So, it's off-road. A multi-track, multi-wheel vehicle, motorcycle, related two-wheel vehicle, a vehicle with 3 or more wheels. There you go. If your car's got 3 or more wheels on it, it's an off-road vehicle. Now, it gives some exclusions of things that aren't. A registered snowmobile is not. Farm vehicles are not. Military, fire, emergency law enforcement are not. Vehicle owned and operated by a utility company and or gas company when performing maintenance on its facilities is not. Right? There's lots that are not. But what are a vehicle with 3 or more wheels that doesn't fit that criteria. Roadway means a portion of street, county road, highway, improved design, ordinarily used for travel by vehicles registered under the code. And it was registered because you got a certificate of title. I'm just saying that's the registration. That's Torrens. It's called the Torrens Registration Act, right? You're registering your title with the Secretary of State, and they're giving you a certificate. And that certificate says is prima facie evidence that who's ever on it is the owner. Okay, a route means a forest road or other road designated for purposes, part of the department. Shoulder, okay, southern country, street, traffic lane. I guess we don't need the rest of those. Okay, well, that's, about all I can tell you. It's like, well, I'm going to do it because of these particular reasons right here. There's one more. So this is State Trunk Line Highway Act. All roads, streets, highways included in the county primary road system of any county shall be officially known as county primary roads. All roads, streets, highways included in the county local road system of any county shall officially be known as county local roads. Right? Designated county roads you can drive your ORV on. Must be purchased annually. We already read that. Did that part. Okay, and again, ORV certificate of title. It's unlawful for a seller to sell or transfer an ORV without transferring title, or for the buyer to purchase or acquire ORV without obtaining a title. Application for a title must be made within 15 days of purchase or transfer. Michigan residents are required to obtain an ORV certificate of title for off-road vehicles and all-terrain vehicles through the Secretary of State. Registration is not required. A Michigan title is not required on ORVs owned by non-residents in Michigan. Now, the best part. ORV exempt from. So this is MCL 324.81106. And ORV is exempt from the Motor Vehicle Accident Claims Act and the Insurance Code of 1956. ORVs don't need motor vehicle insurance. And in Michigan, insurance is a real expensive thing because it's this, what do they call it anyways? No fault insurance. Your insurance company takes care of your issue. Now you can get insurance on ORVs. It's more like general liability insurance, or it could just be a rider on your house policy or whatever it is. You can get it, and you can get it for the same things that you would get motor vehicle insurance for, except it's a shitload cheaper. ORV certificate of title. Every ORV sold through the dealer must be accompanied by a certificate of origin. Let's call that the title. The certificate of origin, the title, contains all the information needed for applying for a certificate of title. Right? So you use the title to get a certificate. I'm going to give you the title, Secretary of State, or however you're going to get it. You're going to keep it, and you're going to give me a certificate that says that I'm the owner, and you know that because you have the title. The application for the title is made to the Secretary of State. That would be taking the certificate of origin, which they do when you buy a car. That's what the dealer takes over, and they issue a title. It's unlawful for a seller to sell or transfer an ORV without transferring the title, or for a buyer to purchase and acquire an ORV without obtaining a title. Okay, well, I have a certificate of title. I got it from the person I bought the car from. I just haven't gone down and put in my name yet, but I do have I obtained the title. I got it. If an ORV is purchased through a dealer, application for title will be made by the dealer on behalf of the buyer. Go figure. If an ORV is purchased by someone other than the dealer, the buyer applies for a title. Yep, you take the old certificate of title down after you fill it out, give it to them, and they're going to send you one back in the mail that has your name on it. The DNR issues licenses for all ORVs on an annual basis, and the annual fee for an ORV license is $26.25. In addition, an ORV trail permit is required to operate on state-designated ORV trails, and those are things where you actually have to be in four-wheel drive to drive, or at least you wouldn't want to take your car on it. Licenses are valid from April through March 31st of the following year, regardless of the date of purchase. Vehicles that are licensed under the Motor Vehicle Code as street vehicles require an ORV license only when they are being used as an ORV. A street licensed ORV does not need an ORV license to use forest roads, but will need an ORV license and an ORV trail permit if used designated trails or in areas designated for cross-country use. Right? So if you license it under the Motor Vehicle Code instead of licensing it under the Department of Natural Resources, apparently that means it will be a street vehicle. And you only need it, an ORV license, when you're using it as an ORV, and that's the point. You want to have it on there so you can say, oh, I was using it for recreation. I wasn't using it for business. But if this sentence right here, this one right here, if that means that because you did it this way and you licensed under the Motor Vehicle Code as a street vehicle, although that's not defined anywhere in the Motor Vehicle Code, but if you did that the way everybody normally does, and you got this usual type of registration sitting in your car that had a little tag on it that you put on your plate, then what you need to do is just to get the ORV license, this one, and put it on your back bumper and say, I was using this vehicle now as an ORV. I got a license, it's in the back. But they should be able to pull it up and see it. I mean, when they do all this stuff, if you use your driver's license and all these other things, it should just, they all be tied together. I think it's the missing link, right? That since we don't have this, they can always get us because we only have our vehicle license for business. And you can say whatever you want, bitch all you want, in the court of record. All that matters is what does the record say. Not what you say, not what they write down. What is on the official record? Let's go to the cabinet, open the drawer, pull your file out, and see what's in there. Whatever it says in there, that's the law. That is the court of record. And so we want the court of record to know you have an off-road vehicle license. And it's $26. That's cheaper than any ticket you're going to pay. So, hey, it's worth a try, right? And see what happens. But for me, I'm not even going to use this. I'm going to say, I don't want to do that. I'm not going to license it that way. I'm just going to license it the way it said, which I already have, and so I can use it on the highway as an off-road vehicle. Because I registered it with them under the Motor Vehicle Code, but I didn't license it under the Motor Vehicle Code. I registered it by getting a certificate of title. Collector's plates. Well, we saw that already. Right? Not for vehicle registration. Excellent. I'm not registering it. I registered the vehicle using the title. I'm not going to register the vehicle using the plate. And there are a number of types. You know, I got a veterans one myself, but there's all sorts of types. So now these little sections are out of the Motor Vehicle Code, and so vehicle unregistered or without certificate of title, operation misdemeanor exception. It is a misdemeanor for any person to drive or move, or for any owner knowingly to permit to be driven or moved upon any highway, any vehicle of any type required to be registered hereunder, which is not registered, or for which for which a certificate of title has not been applied for. Well, certificate of title has already been applied for because I have it. So I'm good. Vehicles subject to registration and certificate of title provisions. Every motor vehicle, recreation vehicle, trailer, semi-trailer, pole trailer, when driven or moved on street or highway, is subject to the registration and certificate of title provisions of this act, except the following. A vehicle driven or moved, a vehicle that is driven or moved, right? But this didn't say off-road vehicles, right? It didn't say off-road vehicles. It said motor vehicle, recreation vehicle, trailer, semi-trailer, pole trailer. They're defining certain types of vehicles, and it didn't say off-road vehicle. Application for registration and certificate of title. An owner of a vehicle that is subject to registration under this act shall apply to the Secretary of State upon the appropriate form furnished by the Secretary of State for the registration of the vehicle and issuance of a certificate of title for the vehicle. I just need the certificate of title. The Department of Natural Resources says I don't need to register it. Well, where did they say that? I don't remember now. I think it was in a book. One of these many pages we looked at. Oh, here we go. Registration is not required. I don't need to register an ORV to use it. I just need to get a certificate of title. And I got one. And so, I don't know that I have anything else to share on that. That's kind of where we're at with what's going on. And so, I'll ask again, if you can, please, take a minute, write down that PayPal account, or send it by mail. And please, if you can, send me a little donation. It'd be wonderful. I could certainly use it. And I'll let you know how this goes. Again, I ordered all I'm waiting for is the plate. I don't even think I need the plate, but I just want to have the plate in the hole where the plate should go so that there's something there. Because it isn't being used as part of registration, but it is tied to the address. Which one did I do? I don't know if it makes any difference. Let's see what this one looks like just real quick, and then we'll be done. So this is the one for application for Veterans Collector's Plate. And so I got all these different choices you could make, and then you pay $10, and then you purchase it by mail, and you put your name and your address, city, state, telephone number. They're going to send you one, and it's not going to say sample on it. They're going to decide what numbers to put on it. So that the Secretary of State's doing this for you. This is the wonderful thing. This is being done by the Secretary of State's office. Instead of going to the counter trolls, they're just going to mail you a plate that's tied to your name and address. It's not tied to a particular vehicle. It's just tied to your name and address. So if you have that on there, and you have the off-road vehicle license, which is tied to your address, and they take your driver's license or this thing that I'm going to give them as an ID, because you don't need to have a driver's license for an off-road vehicle, and you don't need to have insurance. And eventually I'll have the title switched over, so everything will be tied to the same address, showing that I'm the owner. And we'll see how that goes. That's $26 a year and a lot cheaper insurance. And if you don't have this, right, because if you don't have this on your car, anyways, if you don't have this thing, the way it sounds, if they pull you over, they can just say, well, you're, a violation of the Off-Road Vehicle Act, because it says every vehicle has to have one. In Michigan, individuals riding in any place other than private property must purchase an annual ORV license. In addition, riders using state-designated trails must purchase an annual ORV trail permit. You got to have it, or your vehicle is always going to be considered participating in commerce. Right, that's my interpretation. I don't know if it's right. I don't really care. I'm going to go do it anyways. And I'm almost done. Okay, you all have a great day, and I'll have another video here shortly on what I've been doing with the rest of my time. Y'all take care. See ya.